All right, I think we're good to go. So I'm actually trying the dual streaming thing again, just to see how it goes. If it ends up being a huge issue, we'll just stop doing the Twitch. But until then, I guess it's worth a try. So we're not doing what we left off doing last time. I decided that I'm going to do the sculpting and the rest of at least the modeling and maybe even the rigging stuff for the boss fight off stream, because I just want to do that in small increments. Because I say so, to be honest with you. It seems like there might be an issue with Twitch. I tested this before going live, but the test bitrate is fucking near nothing. No, it's about 6,000 kilobit. I guess 6,000 kilobit it sees as too little for Twitch, but YouTube does fine with it. So shut up, effectively. So yeah, the boss fight I'm going to at least do the sculpting for it, mostly off stream, and probably the read topology off stream, so I can focus a little bit more on what I'm actually doing in the moment. In the meantime, I animated this guy yesterday. So we have these animations with root motion enabled on them, and it has this in 4 different directions, right? I can probably do a better job showing you that with the blend space that I set up for it. A nice evening right back at you. Where the hell is my plan? Oh, there it is. So we essentially have this blend space that animates it, and it has root motion and all in whatever direction I give in as a vector. We might need to make a extra set of animations for the diagonal directions as well at some point. I don't know. They kind of weird out when the animations are directly diagonal. So I'm not 100% sure on it. But if we just go in to the animation blueprint here, and I say, for instance, the temporary, I set it to a value of 3 times speed. I think we're going to go to 2 times speed instead. And I set it to a forward direction of just 1. Yeah, I had a drop table view of playing at it. Let me pick up my controller real quick. Hello. There we go. You'll be able to see that he does move, and he actually moves in the world based on the animation, because he moves entirely through a root motion, which is usually something you don't really do for locomotion. But I kind of like the idea that he actually, for one, has physically accurate foot placement. Right? That's kind of neat. There's no sliding there. But also the fact that he only physically moves forward every so often through the animation is kind of neat, and I really kind of like that. As well as the fact that I don't want this guy to actually rotate around as an entire actor. I want it to always be facing the same way, and the only thing that's going to be turning around will be the cannon. That's always going to be trying to interpolate toward the player rotation. That did make me think, how am I going to move this thing in the world, right? And I made those animations, and I still don't really have a good answer to how I'm going to make this thing move. So that's maybe less than ideal, but we'll figure it out. So my current idea is probably not going to work first and foremost, but is to make him move with the character movement components, just very, very slowly. But if he moves very, very slowly, that gives me a direction that he is moving in, and I can then use that direction to provide into this blend space to drive the actual movement that he does through the animation, right? The only issue is if he actually ends up going off of the nav mesh, he will get stuck. moving in a certain direction. So that's maybe not ideal. But it sure beats him not being able to use the nav mesh at all. The only issue that I potentially see there is that characters who navigate through or over a nav mesh do tend to actually like rotate themselves around in the direction that they're facing. I don't want this guy to do that. So that's probably going to be an issue. But the acceleration we're going to set to 1, and then we have the maximum walking speed for him. We're also going to set to 1, and for crouching, just in case, also set to 1. So he will be moving very, very slowly. Now, what is this ignore base rotation? When character ignores changes to the rotation of its base it's standing on, that's not what I really like care about at all. I guess we kind of just like look for everything that has to do with rotation here, right? So we have orient rotation to movement is set to false, to be fair. So what actually happens when I set this to 0, 0, 0? Or 0, 0, just 2 zeros? I don't have an idle animation for him yet, I just realized. Maybe I should real quick make one? And the idle animation is literally just him standing still, I guess. So let's like super quickly make one of those. Just copy this one over. Tank idle. Because I do think that that is relevant. We can just remove this and effectively just remove everything to do with this as well, right? We can just say, hey, skeleton mesh component. Can I just make? Well, maybe we. Maybe we give him a little bit of up and down movement for idle. We can always come back to this. For now, I think we're just gonna go tank idle. Hold on a moment. Tank idle animation. While we do that, let's set you to go to live chat just in case otherwise it fills anything out. I don't think it does, but you never know. So yeah, the idle animation should just be put at 0, 0. So let's put that in. It's the last one added, presumably, right? Yes, 0, 0. Which just makes him like not move at all, right? And then I guess, what do we do? We need to make like a basic state tree for him to test this with, I guess. I can just, well, no, let's not copy one over, because copying stuff over breaks a lot of stuff with state trees, I find. Let's just make a new one. Well, or maybe not. Where did I put those? State trees, there we go. Yeah, so we can just kind of copy this over. We'll need to program the aggressiveness later. So we can remove all this, and then I guess the aggressive state I'm going to remove for the time being as well. And something, oh, can't progress to, that makes sense. I guess it progresses back to its parent state when it's finished. Probably should like progress to a waiting state, but it doesn't really matter for now. State tree components. That should just give him wandering AI. That doesn't really do anything, but it'll show me how its movement works. Hopefully. Or not. There's also a distinct possibility that it will not do that, in fact. Okay, let's try to figure this out. Debugger. Could not trigger completion, jump back to root state, try and root, try select children order, inactive. I guess it goes into inactive at first and it never gets the active event. I just need you to do this, man. we'll get everything else sorted out in a moment, but for now, or not even in a moment, just at a later date, we only care about movement for right now. So what does passive actually do? Wait, that's supposed to have a subtree. What the hell am I doing? That's not the right thing at all. Of course that doesn't work. Yeah, so we need to link it to like basic patrol. So this should be a linked assets. Patrol. There we go. Which I think that does have a... Yeah, you see that's very slowly moving now, I assume. And it does actually rotate toward where it's walking to, which is not what I want at all. I was kind of afraid that it would do that. I think there's a way to stop it doing that though. I just don't remember what it is. You would think that it's something to do with like orient to rotation. I'm gonna real quick try to like look it up. Unreal stop AI from facing walking direction. Yeah, so everybody only asks the question of how you make it do that, but it does it by fucking default. How to prevent an AI character from rotating while moving? Thanks. If you disable use rotation yaw. Okay, so yaw. And just for testing purposes, we're going to set this back to a higher value for the walk speed, by the way, because otherwise it's going to be difficult to tell when he's actually moving. So let's set this back to like 1200 or something. And then the maximum walk speed back to, I don't know, 500. All I need is for him to move without rotating. Okay, so there we go. That's the basic idea. Then I don't know if the like normal patrol thing that I have set up is going to work with this, I realize, because it's not technically the AI movement that's going to get him there. So we might need to set up something slightly more custom, but that'll be fine. That'll work. So let's add all of these back to 1. I say that'll work. I don't know that this is going to work necessarily. But the idea that I want to do is, now that we have this, right? Presumably, what we could do is get the pawn owner, cast that to character real quick. Get the character movement component, which is all the way like at the bottom here somewhere. There we go. And get the velocity from that. This velocity shouldn't include any like translation movement that we're doing through root motion. I think. I don't know that for sure. So that's what we're about to find out, because if it does include that, that means that he's going to start walking in one direction and never stop. But the idea is that we have the like character movement kind of try to like generate a direction with a minimal movement speed, and then use that direction to drive the direction of the root motion. Again, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to give it our best try. So we just set that every frame, and then in here we take that, we split it, and then this is Z up, right? Yeah, so X is X and Y is Y, I think. Oh, that might actually always... Yeah, so this will not only properly work if this thing is rotated into the positive XY direction, which I think it is. This is world space. Right now, it's in world space, and it's in the... I think what we need to do is we need to like transform that into local space, so taking in its own forward vector. Because if we set it into... No, because like, effectively this is not going to matter, right? Because we're just going to plop these down and not rotate them at all. So we just do like BP block tank. This should always face within... Yeah. So the X will be forward and the Y will be side to side. Which doesn't matter because X is just X and Y is just Y. So just never rotate these when you put them in the world and they'll work. Now I do think it's maybe good to normalize that vector. Well, maybe I don't need to do that actually, because we'll see. Let's just try this first. See what this does. Where the fuck are you? You are nowhere because you are not activated by default. That makes sense. Let's start you as active. My dude's not moving. My dude's very not moving. Why is my dude not moving? Well, I guess what we can do is, well, actually let's play in viewport. annoying that doesn't have my cursor properly. Preview instance. Okay, so what is the value of this, like, velocity? 0 and 0. So yeah, that's not great. Hello, where's my... Thank you. So maybe just a value of 1 might just be too low to make this work, is what I'm thinking. What I'm hoping. So let's set it to like a value of 100, maybe, which is maybe a little too fast, and will create sliding this way, which is what I don't want. But I just, for troubleshooting purposes, I want to make sure that, like, even at a value of 100. Oh, what's going on with that? I don't like that at all. Well, let me put this on the other monitor so that I can actually, like, well, monitor the values while this all happens, because something is going a little weird with this. So yeah, we have this. And now this is all 0, 0, and then it's... Yeah, maybe we just need to normalize that. Let's normalize this. I don't think that would be the issue, but I don't know how blend spaces deal with values that are, like, out of range. Yeah, that's not the issue. Okay. So then I guess what it needs to do is it needs to always move when it's patrolling. It just needs to have custom patrolling, is what it needs to do. Which effectively just entirely ignores the nav mesh. Because if it always just has linear movement, which is probably doable for the most part, if this always has just linear movement, it will have a vector in which direction it's moving, and I can just use that vector instead. Right? So we don't rely on Unreal's, like, navigation system for this, because it seemed like it doesn't like doing that. I'm assuming something with the root motion is messing with the velocity, unless there is a way to, like, get the desired, like, movement vector and use that. But I feel like no, because if I do that, I still need to, like, get that desired movement vector and then not make the character movement component use that. So I feel like I just need to set up, like, custom movement for this guy, which is what I was worried about. Sending huge love from Korea, sending slightly bigger love back, because I always got to one-up you. Yeah, so we're going to change this to casting to the BP, like, I think I called it block tank or something like that. And we're going to do that because this is going to have a value on it for movement vector. So movement vector. I think this game is going to be pretty cool. I hope so, because I've wasted way too much time on making this thing. And there's going to be a lot more time that I spend making this thing. So I hope that it's going to be, like, at least not super shit. Get movement vector. and we'll use that instead, right? So we don't have any AI setting the direction for this at the moment. What we'll do instead is we'll just set this movement vector on begin play. And we just like get a random unit vector, which is a random vector with a length of 1. Can we do that for a vector 2D actually? Random unit vector 2D. Random. That's annoying. We'll just get a random unit vector and then I guess, okay, I have an ID, right? What if we make a vector? This is the most stupid thing ever, but let's do it anyway. We just use the X and Y and then we like normalize that. So yeah, this state tree for this tank we can just more or less like entirely remove. Please don't crash Unreal. Because it is state tree related, you never freaking know. Just replace it with an anti-ref, okay. So now in theory, begin play should get a random direction to move in and start moving in that direction through its animation purely. So does it do that? It does seem to, in fact, do that. So now let's test if that actually like works as well as I would like it to. And we're going to do that by making this into a like custom event real quick. Set random movement. And we'll do this on a timer. So every 6 seconds it's going to get a new random direction. This is all just testing stuff, really. Where is it? There we go. So it's moving in one direction now, and then in a couple of seconds it's going to be moving in a different direction. There we go. It does seem... Yeah, so there is the issue that because we're just jumping from one direction into the other, that the animations just jump around because it's only like playing the middle part of an entirely different animation, right? So it kind of weirds out about that. In actual gameplay sense, it shouldn't do that because all that it's ever going to do in actual like gameplay sense is it's going to like pick a spot in a certain radius. So let's say that's text. That's not what I want to do, but sure. This spot, apparently. It's going to pick this spot. And then it's going to just linearly move to that spot. And then I guess when it reaches that spot, it's going to snap to the idle position. Which will be... That will be an animation snap, but won't be very smooth. But it could be very smooth. We just need to set this up a little differently. Where's the animation blueprint for this guy? Right here. So right now what we do is we have the idle as part of this locomotion thing. But what we could do instead is we could set up the idle like if it's nearly 0, we could blend by bool. And that gives it a little bit of blend time, right? So if it is nearly 0, we play idle, otherwise we play our locomotion. Idle. And I guess technically this doesn't even need to loop, right? Because it's not actually moving. So that'll fix that issue if we actually hook this up. And then when it starts moving, it'll have 0.1 seconds of blend time into the movement as well, but that's kind of fine. So yeah, I think with that we can start making his AI movement stuff. So essentially what we would do would be make a new state tree, which is the thing that I literally just deleted. So let's make a new one. We have the most basic one that I'm just going to copy over. State tree tank. So yeah, we have to start with this stuff, which I'm not going to touch for now. And then we have this passive state, which is not going to just have the normal patrol stuff, because that's not going to work. So we're going to change this into a state, and then the aggressiveness is going to probably need to be like pretty custom as well, I imagine. Yeah, that's probably going to need to be pretty much its own like unique little thing. We can't just, because the basic like chase and attack does this, right? It chases, it attacks, and then it waits. But that's like very much not what this guy is going to be doing. So yeah, I think that we essentially just change this into a state as well. And then how we're going to go back and forth between these states we'll figure out at some point. It's probably like not a me issue for today. It's probably a me issue on Thursday. For now, I guess we can make this entire thing in like 2. Yeah, so let's make a child state for this. This will be moved to new location. And then a sibling state for that, which will just be waiting for a moment. And move to new location is going to require us to set up a new task. Which is going to be state tree task blueprint base. Where did I put all the tasks for this? Again, probably under like, I need to reorganize some of my folders, man. Probably in AI, right? Yeah. So STT tank move. And this is going to be relatively easy. When we enter the state, we pick a location from the context actor. And I guess for this we can set the context actor to be specifically tank, just to make that a tiny bit easier. Interesting, I don't think I've seen a state tree before. Is it anything like the blackboard is for AI? I mean, it's you can do a lot of stuff with it. Mainly it's designed as an alternative to write AI with, and I like it for that. But you can effectively like program anything with it. It's very, very flexible. It's quite cool. It's definitely like worth looking into. And I just finished uploading the, I think it's the last part, maybe the second to last part of my introductory like series to it. It's about like 2 hours long. Goes over effectively all of like the basic features and how to use them. I think the full upload of the entire course, like the supercut will be uploaded this weekend, but all the individual parts are already up on the channel. So if you're like interested in learning how to work with them, that should help as well. But I like them so much that I actually like took a lot of already existing AI from behavior trees and remade them in state trees. Anyway, we'll make the actor here, and the category will be, I think it's context, right? Not class reference, object reference. So we just get actual location, and then I guess we can just still get a random navigable point in radius, because that could technically get something not on our level, right? So so I guess what we do is we get our actor location and then plus a random in range. Just gonna make this a literal float real quick. And let's say that it's, well, we can make that a parameter, I guess. Yeah, so we just do that twice. Once for the X, once for the Y. And that effectively picks a random location within a circle. Around the target actor, so that'll be the target location. So target location should be a factor. Just wishlist the game on Steam. Thanks. Wishlists do help like quite a lot, so that's always nice. And then I guess we need to check whether or not this guy has line of sight to there, right? So let's make that into, let's make it into a function. Get desired location. Put all that in there. And we return that value. We get desired location, and then we just kind of do a line trace and check if it doesn't. I guess what we do is we do a line trace and we just move to whatever location we find as a hit result. Recently uploaded to Steam myself, kind of nervous. It's kind of terrifying to like put yourself out there. It's necessary though if you want like people to play it, of course, but it doesn't make it any less terrifying. So yeah, line trace by channel. Start will be the actor location. Actors to ignore. It's effectively nothing because it already ignored itself, right? And then we break the out hit, and we just get the out hit location. And I guess that's just going to be what our target location will be. That's the normal. That's not what I want to do. Maybe we need to like subtract a little bit from this. But we'll see. I'm probably going to make it stop walking when it is within like 50 units or maybe even 100 units of it. It's never actually going to reach this location because the The worry that I have, right, is if we have like a our tank is like right here, and there's a wall right here, and it picks a spot over here. It'll do its like line trace to it, and it's going to try to move to this location. But since it's pretty dumb with the way that's going to be walking, it's just going to be root motioning into a certain direction. It might never actually like reach this location and get stuck on this wall instead. And there's also the issue that if it is up against a wall, and I've had this issue before and it's really annoying, but if it is up against a wall, there's a 50% chance that it takes a like desired location against that wall again. So I probably also need to check the distance of this and check if it is like at least like 300 units or something like that. And if it is not, I probably should do another line trace, like bouncing off of the wall. That seems like a pretty decent idea. And make it move in that direction instead. But we can figure that out later. For now, we want the basic thing to work, and then we can always like go back and recheck some things. Then we just set the movement vector to the fine look at rotation between this and that. And then we turn that into a vector. And then on the tick for this task, which is really nice about like behavior tree or state tree tasks, is that they have their own tick, which is nice. We, I guess, just kind of check whether or not the distance between this and our target location is less than a certain amount. Which I guess we should parameterize as well. So acceptance radius. It's the default value of that to like 100. So when it is, we set our movement vector back to 0 and we finish this task. So that's the basic idea. Again, we can probably do with making this a little bit more robust with dealing with like corners and that kind of stuff. Effectively, what we would want to do is I need to check what I ended up doing with my flying navigation, because this is more or less how my flying navigation works, but just like in a two-dimensional plane. So effectively, we probably end up with a situation where we check our line trace distance. If it's too little, we do another line trace. And we probably do it at like a set like length. So let's say 1,000 units. If it doesn't hit anything, we're just going to move to whatever the hell that location is. Well, we also need to check from our origin position if that is like linearly reachable though. But what if it is not? Well, I guess if it is not, then we just kind of do the same. So we effectively like need to make something that loops in on itself from like a code perspective until it finds something that it can do. So that is either making these like bouncing line traces or just like doing traces until it hits something that it can like walk to. I also probably should just, yeah, so I probably should also just put in something to make sure that if we If we don't hit anything, I think most of the time we should hit something, but if we don't hit anything, we still set our target location to just whatever our desired initial location was. So that should now make the patrol work, in theory. I'll give it a shot. Tank move. The range we're going to set to like 550 or something. A total of like 1100 diameter circle. That seems pretty good. Then when this finishes, we go to the next state. And then when we go here, we just wait. Or like delay, I think it's called. Delay. I'm going to set this to 2 seconds for now. It's only 3 seconds with a random deviation of 1. And when this finishes, I guess going back to the parent actually is fine. Oh, no, it goes back to the root. Nah, I don't think I want that. Just go back to there. It might do like weirdly with this. I don't remember how I set this up because it's been a while. Let's see. Where man, my controller is. Okay, certainly is moving in directions, which that makes sense because I do have this testing code still in here, which nope. I don't know if I need to keep this in. I'm just going to keep it in just to be safe. Yeah, so what's happening here is that it's probably still stuck in the inactive state because I'm never actually like technically activating it. No, I didn't give it this state trait. That's what's happening. It's a user error. Let's give it the proper state trait. But it's moving. It did have a little bit of a lag spike, which is worrying. But it sure as hell is moving. You see that the animations are a little bit weird with the way that it moves. Because it's technically like moving diagonally, I guess, right? And it's a little bit weird with how it does that. But at some point it's going to reach its location. Yeah, it definitely is going to need diagonal animations, I would say. Because the way that these animations look right now is just a bit dumb. Because specifically like the front rightmost like pillar, it constantly just goes out and immediately back in, which makes sense in the individual animations for going like left and going like backward, going right and going backward in this case. But when it plays both of them blended together, it's a little weird. It also definitely should have reached its end location by now. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. It is the movement state, right? I don't know if we can check this on. I think you can. So the target location is 900, 1000, and 220 roughly. The acceptance radius I have set to about 100. We're checking the distance between these. which is about 3,000 and only growing, so it's missed the mark, clearly. So I guess what ends up happening, maybe, is that it started here. It said it was going to go there, but due to how it blended the animations together, it ended up like missing that, maybe. So let's try to figure this out. Oh, this needs to be it. I think that fully makes sense. Yeah, it's past it again. Huh. So how it's your 150. So I guess this doesn't like quite translate super well, maybe. Okay, let's make a draw debug persistence, just to see if it actually follows that proper like path that it does the trace on. Well, it actually does follow that pretty perfectly, I think. Oh, but now it actually did stop as well. Ooh, there we go. Yeah, so it traced in this direction, and then it's walking just like in a random different direction. What the hell's going on with any of that? So in both cases, I'm fairly certain that it's not hitting anything. So it's using this, and then oh, yeah, I think the issue is that it's maybe specifically using the output from this. No, that doesn't make any sense. But let's, just to be sure, do it this way anyway to see if this changes anything. I don't think it will. Because assumedly this is effectively just like a variable ref, right? Like this is not an instance. This node, it might be, I don't know. I'm assuming that it's not, because that would be fucking weird. Yeah, so in this case, it's just walking forward, which makes no sense. Why would it be doing that? Let's do that again. And just figure out so this was false, that makes sense. Is this walking in? Oh, this one is just walking in the exact opposite direction. Fantastic. That's not an issue at all, is it? So the movement vector ended up being... So that this just doesn't quite work, does it? So I guess what we do is, instead of using the find look at rotation, which clearly does not fucking work, is at the end here, we use the get actor location itself, and we just do it the good old fashioned way. We get this, we subtract this, and then we normalize it. And that should always get us a workable vector, in theory. Might not. So far that seems to... ooh, yeah, no, not at all. Why not? I wonder... Is it because the normalization fucks with... Those don't add up to 1 at all. It's probably because of the negative numbers. That it's kind of like messing it up. So, okay, we have a get unit direction, like directly. That might work a little bit better. I'm fairly certain that's effectively what I was doing, but I might have skipped a step. I mean, I think we just need to swap these around, which is very unintuitive, but sure. Dude, what the fuck? Do I just have the directions wrong? I might just have the directions in the blend space wrong, man. I think I just have the blend space directions wrong. Let's take a look at that. What if we swap those around? Right, backwards movement going from, hold on. No. Really annoying. And then this will be like 1, 0. This will be 0 minus 1. 1, 0. Hello, Vert Gaming. I seem to have fucked something up. Something is at 1, 1. Let's just see if this fixes anything. Well, so far that actually is moving along the right path. Let's see if it keeps it up. Yeah, so it does actually like snap into place when it reaches its destination. Well, it doesn't quite snap, but it is a little weird about it. It's not super straight on, I will admit. Like it's a little like weirdly drifting and off center in some cases. But it seems to be working. Now, it also seems to have a real preference to go this direction. I need to make sure that that's just coincidence. It seems to be. So yeah, we effectively have him moving. It's a little janky. As you can see. But it's working. So yeah, and when it does this, we're going to run into the issue that now it's offset and it's not going to correct itself, right? So I guess, and then it goes beyond it. So I guess what we really want to do is in tick we also want to like set the, like do this in tick, more or less, just as a precaution to make sure that if it gets offset that it like gets itself back on track. Which is going to be kind of annoying to like set up a test for. So I guess we'll just see if that ends up being even relevant in practice. So yeah, now I guess the next thing to do is to actually look into doing the whole like wall bouncing ray thing. To make sure that if he's up against a wall, he's not going to just hug the wall forever. But he will actually like actively move away from a wall if it's too close to him. So if this is true, what we'll do is we'll do another line trace, which will start at the impact location and then end at the impact location plus the impact normal times, let's say, a certain amount. Say like 500 units. I don't know if that's maybe too much, but we're going to go for that. That will be the end position of this trace. And this is going to have two options as well. Either it hit something or it didn't. If it did hit something, we're just going to go back to like the first line trace again and just make it redo the entire thing, I guess. But if it did not hit something, then we need to do yet another line trace to ensure that we do have direct line of sight to whatever we're going up toward. And there, if that does hit something, we also want to go back to the very first one, and if that does not hit something, then we finally go there. And use this. Pretty new to coding and Unreal, but can you not use some kind of bool condition to stop the character rotation? I'm assuming that you're still fairly like early in the stream and not like on the like live current event, because that's something that we struggled at the beginning. Yeah, that's just a bool tick you can do in your character like pawn settings. I'm going to set these all up with special colors. So I can actually recognize all of them. And then we're going to give this guy a couple of walls around him, right? So let's just like cube. We're effectively like gonna put him in a corner here. And he will naturally drift away from this if he gets like too much into a corner. Is the idea. I don't know that it will actually work. We're just going to sit here for a moment and watch this guy walk around until he decides to hit a wall and see how it deals with that. So it's going to take a minute probably. But eventually we'll get there. Maybe I should speed up his walking speed for this. Come on. Go to the wall. Oh, wrong direction. God damn it. Not that far behind was in reference to you saying the nav mesh might be unintentionally rotating your character. Huh? But that was at the start of the stream. But you're responding to what I'm saying right now. He's not quite like going where I want him to go. The little weird movement that he does. Okay, so I'm actually going to like straight up go in here and set this play rate to like 5 times or something like that, so that he moves a little bit quicker, because holy shit. And then I guess we just make these walls like even bigger, so that eventually he's going to have to run into one of them. I'll start him a little closer maybe. Box him in. Eventually that's what I want to do. But I can't box him in too tight, because that way he's never going to be able to move anywhere and he's going to infinitely line cast and crash the engine. Yeah, so exactly this. That's exactly what he... yeah. So there's a bit of an issue. If he actually walks up to a wall, the engine does detect the fact that he's infinitely looping. So I might need a different solution for that. But see, now there's about a 50% chance that he's going to run into this wall. And with a wall, that's not that big of a deal. With a corner, that might be more annoying. Oh my god, he actually like just didn't hit the wall. But now the chance that he's going to hit a wall are pretty big. Of course he would just go in the opposite direction right away. Come on. Toward the wall. that works. Then like try to like move over here or something. Man. You see, in practice, this is not going to be that big of a deal. Because if he's just like walking in this random pattern like this, not that big of a deal. But eventually he will get to a wall, at which point it'll be... I guess at which point, if it is like a 50% chance, at a wall it's a 50% chance that he gets stuck on any like given movement instance. In a corner it's like a 75% chance, which is a little bit more annoying. Also, this guy just got stuck. Because, I don't care about any of this. But he should be constantly updating. Okay, so something is not working quite right anyway. Because he should be constantly updating to go to his target location. Are you tracing to change movement when he hits the wall? Yeah, so the issue is, at the moment, I'm just picking a like random X and Y offset for him to move to. And then tracing to that location to see if I have like direct line of sight to it, because he can only move in straight directions, because I'm using root motion for his movement, because I hate myself. So if he picks like this location over here, of course he can't walk to that location, which is fine. He can just walk up to the wall and say that's good enough. But from that point, if he's up against this wall, there is a 50% chance that he's going to take something in this half of the circle around him, which is going to end up with him just like walking directly back into the wall again, over and over and over again, until he picks something that is away from the wall. You could do something similar if world XYZ is previous to XYZ. I could do that. I could store its previous like target location on the actor. The issue is that these tasks are like instanced, right? So every time you go into one of these tasks, it's a new object. So it doesn't retain data between running it. But I can just keep its like last location on the actor itself, I guess. It's another built-in function for that. No, because I'm making my own movement here, and like if you if you decide that you want to do your own movement, I'm doing a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing. Frankly, is the issue. I'm using root motion animations to drive my locomotion for this guy, which is a dumb idea to begin with. But I really like the look of it for this guy, because I like the way that he like will easily be able to move like in any direction. And the fact that his movement will be like staggered as well as a result of it. Because if you look at the way that he like animates, I kind of like the way that it looks. Right? His movement only actually physically happens with those parts of the animation where he actually like moves the body forward. You do have the annoying thing where the legs snap back at the end, but I like the way that this looks. I like the way that this feels. I like the way that this like makes the character feel a little bit more grounded and that kind of stuff. So that's the entire reason that I'm putting up with this bullshit to begin with. But that's something that you generally like shouldn't do to begin with. So because of that, I am using root motion to drive his locomotion in the first place. Meaning that I can't do anything to do with Unreal's built-in navigation system, because that assumes, rightly, that you're using Unreal's movement components, which I'm not. Yeah, I can't have him be on like a patrol route. Can also use EQS calculate path cost. Yeah, but that still relies on Unreal's like built-in navigation system, and there's like just I guess I can use that to figure out whether or not Unreal's navigation system would be able to like more or less go in a straight line or have to like move around stuff. But there you still end up in a situation where you effectively, I'm just like randomly picking points until it finds something, and that's going to potentially result in like freeze frames sometimes. Because for the most part it shouldn't, right? For the most part, even if it is in a corner, it has a 75% chance to not be able to move in the direction that it wants to move. But that also means that it has a 25% chance, which is 1 in 4, to move away from that corner. So statistically speaking, it should only ever have to do like 4 line casts until it gets a location that it can move to. That's statistically speaking, though. In practice, it could very well do 100. And that's going to hang your frame until it finds something, and that's also not ideal. I've had that issue before with my flying navigation. So I probably should just look at how I fix it there. So the issue isn't that he walks into the wall. Like walking into the first movement to the wall isn't the issue. Because what we already do is when it picks a spot at the other side of the wall, it already does a line trace, right? And then it just moves to the hit location of the line trace. The issue then is that, say that we end up like right here. It's now very likely to pick a location for its next movement in this half of the circle, which is going to end up with it just like kind of sticking to this wall. What I needed to do is when it's up against the wall, I need to force it to move its next movement away from the wall. And for just one wall, that's actually not that difficult, because we can very much just like line trace. If you hit a wall, go in the opposite direction. But what happens if we are here, we line trace to this wall, we do in out, and then we end up at that wall. Right? I guess we can just keep doing that until we hit nothing. I guess that's what we can do. But that's where Unreal starts to bitch at you about like infinite loop detection. Could do a line trace on the 4 axes of movement, and if it connects with static mesh, move in a direction with no static mesh. Yeah, so I think that is what I ended up doing with my flying navigation. Is I think it always moves. It effectively scores like 4 different directions, and it always moves to whatever is the furthest away from hitting anything else. Is I think what I do with my flying navigation, but I just need to figure out where those fuckers are. So I guess they would just be in a stage rate, right? So like patrol flight, let's just look at how I ended up programming this. Yeah, so we have a random x, random y. This also has a random z. Doesn't matter for what we're doing right now. I guess we can just use this and set the minimum height and maximum height to 0. Like, actually, though. Yeah. Like, that straight up should that straight up should just work. Now I look at this. Because what this flying one does is it does pretty much the same thing. It calculates everything on the actor's plane and then just adds a certain amount of height to that from the ground, I think. Yeah. But if this just... If it's just 0, it'll just like remain on its own plane, effectively. But then I have to like put this out and somewhere else to save it, because I then do still need something that like ticks the movement itself. Yeah, so I know how to like invert the hit normal. That's like 1000% not the problem. The problem is like more on a like design issue, because that works well if we're working with one wall, but if we're working with 2 walls, like I need to like recursively keep doing that until I find something, and Unreal does not like that, and that still can like cause issues. Specifically, like what if, right? What if somehow it manages to maneuver itself within a situation like this? It can very easily create an infinite loop, right? Because if it like does a line trace here, and then it bounces here, and then it bounces here, and then it bounces there, like depending on what length of trace I set up for the secondary trace, we very much could end up with a situation where it like just keeps on fucking bouncing on. And eventually, in most scenarios, it will probably reach a place that it could move to. But I would prefer that to not be after like 30 bounces. Because, like, ray tracing in real time, like, is a thing on GPUs, like, with millions of rays, with specific hardware for that. CPU doesn't like it if you do like 100 back to back to back to back to back to back. That's going to like create lag spikes when things get trapped, and I don't like doing that. But I think something like that is going to need to be what we do. So I think what we do is just make the secondary bounce. Just short and hope for the best. For every loop index trace, maybe to prevent infinity. Yeah, so that's a pretty good idea. Like, keep a secondary bounce integer, and just use that as a divisor, right? Or the dividing number for the length of the secondary thing. So that way, even if we start with like 1,000, that quickly becomes 500, then 300, then 250, then 200, then another number that I can't think of off the top of my head. Like, what is 100 divided by 6? That's something. So that way, realistically, it should only ever do like 5 bounces, 4 bounces at most, before ending up at a location. I think that is the most reasonable way to like do this. And to be clear, this shouldn't be relevant in like 99% of cases, right? In by far most of the situations, it's going to, as we just saw with testing, it's just going to randomly move around and not like get stuck on a wall, let alone in a corner. But we need to keep in mind what will happen 1% of the time. And I think that this is a pretty like decent workaround. I wish we could just do that asynchronously, to be honest with you. Because if Blueprint allowed you to just say, hey, do this on a separate thread, there wouldn't be a problem. We could just make it linecast all day long until it finds something to walk to. There's one last little issue that I just realized in the middle of my sentence. Even if we do this, which I think is the best option, right? So if we do like this, well, that would be bad as an example. What the hell is this gray color? I don't want that. So let's say we do this and we like want to go with here and then there and then like here. We also then need to make sure that from where we are to that point, we also have line of sight. Because if, like, through these bounces we end up at a location that we can't directly walk toward anyway, we're still fucked. And we just, at that point, I think we just need to restart, right? So we need to loop through and find a location through bouncing. And then if that is unreachable, we just start all the way over from zero. I think that's still a safer way to do things than just randomly cast over and over and over and over again. So let's do that. So we do a initial get desired location, that's fine. Then our initial line cast can stay the way it is. We're going to get rid of all this. We'll do all that again in a moment. If that doesn't hit anything, that is fantastic. That means that we can just... Well, let's make this into a variable. Let's make this into a variable. I like this being a variable. Just for organizational purposes. There's no effective purpose for this. I just don't like having all these lines all over my screen. But if we do hit something, we need to make a function to do secondary line cast. So we make a function which takes in the start location of the line. Let's just copy over our line cast. Because it takes in a lot of stuff from this. So it takes in our starting location. It'll take in a normal. We invert that normal. Well, I guess we multiply it by -1, 0. Because we want to invert it in both the x and the y, right? Yes. Yeah, no, but that's the issue. I don't want to use the movement component with a nav mesh for this. So it's not just a matter of sliding animations, because like that's something that you need to do anyway, regardless, at all times, right? Like it's specifically the way that I have designed this guy to like move around and the way that his like movement is staggered in that way. It's very, very tricky to create something, and this is probably going to be like kind of fucked. But it's very tricky to create something through the character movement component that moves like in this very staggered way. Because with the root motion method that I'm using right now, it actually moves in the world through a part of the animation, which makes it have this like move, 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 move in like slow little bursts kind of way. Replicating that through only animation is probably gonna be more of a pain in the ass than this, because at that point you're doing a lot of like approximation that really falls apart very, very quickly. So I don't think that that's like a pretty. I don't think that's a fallback that I want to like really go into. Is this hyper optimization? Kind of yes, kind of no. The issue isn't that there's a lot of line traces. The issue is that if we make a loop that line traces like over and over and over and over again, the issue is that it is potentially doing a indeterminate amount of line traces within one frame. Even in Call of Duty, when you empty like a magazine, it's doing one line trace per frame at the very most for that. This is trying to figure like stuff out within one frame. We start this operation, it's going to run all that code, and it's going to stall that frame of the game until this code has resolved. That's what I was saying. If I could do this like asynchronously, which is technically possible through C++, but I still need to like figure that out because it's a pain in the ass. It wouldn't be a big deal because I could just say, hey, this other thread, work on finding whatever location I'm going to move to, and when you're finished, deliver it back to me and I'll move on. But since Blueprint doesn't allow you to make things asynchronously, and you need to like set that code up in C++, and I haven't like looked into how to do that yet. I've been meaning to do that for months, but every time I do, it's like, okay, this looks complicated. I'll do that later. This might be a good reason to like actually look into it, to like make this into an asynchronous task, but yeah. Yeah, but I do like state trees. Yeah, I do. And then I guess we have this as an integer for like iteration or something like that. And then we multiply this by, I'm going to start with 1,000. I think that's a pretty good number. Well, let's start with 500. Well, actually, this needs to be divided. So 500 divided by our iterations. Which needs to start at 1, actually. Let's, let's make sure to set that to 1. But it doesn't even need to be, never mind, I'm an idiot. It can just be this variable. So if this doesn't hit anything, we return. That end location. So this does hit something. Shit's gonna hit the fan. We first and foremost increment this, and then look, I don't know if Blueprint is gonna like me like recursively calling this function. Bounce raise. But I guess we'll see. start at normal. It has an inbuilt timer, yeah, but I mean, I guess we could just do it on a timer and then stop that timer, keep some data in functions or in variables, and just rerun that timer. That's something that we could do. That's another like possibility. But that wouldn't like fundamentally change the solution. We would just be doing the same thing that we're doing here. So like if Blueprint start bitching about the fact that I'm recursively calling this bounce race, that's probably what we end up doing. That's a pretty good idea. But like fundamentally that doesn't change the way that we like deal with the solution, I don't think. It just will like bind this to an event that we run and we add a couple of extra variables. What? Oh, this is, hold on, supposed to be a float. I hate Blueprint. I hate Blueprint with a fiery passion sometimes, you know that? Okay, we'll make this into a float. Sure. Make these traces pink. I don't even think this needs to return a value, to be honest, because if we... I mean... This should, like, send the value back up the chain, right? Like, that's how that should work. But I think what we'll do instead is we will just set our desired location to that. Or target location, rather. And then return. I think that's a little more straightforward, because we're using that as a variable anyway in other places. So we do all that, and then we go target location gets set through there. Let's see if this complains at me. Hopefully it won't. But it might. So yeah, I'm going to actually like box him in here, so that he is very likely to get into one of these, and we want to like force him into that direction over there. Immediately. Immediately it's like, hey, infinite loop detected. Although I think that this is that's fixable in one fairly easy way, because we're not returning anything anymore, right? So we can change this into an event and just add in a delay. which effectively solves like the but you can turn functions into event. Why not? You know what? We'll just do this. Fine. So we do this as an event instead. Bounce extra race. Fucking, I don't care. This will be the location. This will be the normal. Give that a name in a moment. I made it as a function because I thought we were going to use a return. We're not. But the wonderful thing about this is that we can, because it's now an event in the event graph, we can put in a delay. Just a delay until next frame, really, is enough. So this will just make it only do one of these per tick. And that should be good enough. Bounce extra raise is what I'm looking for. So that should now fix that. What the fuck are you? Could not find pin parameter normal bounce for array for. What the hell? What are you talking about, man? Is it complaining because I'm calling this? I think it is. I got a way around that. I got a way around that. You're not going to get rid of me that easily. Come now. That'll do it. Yeah, I can also do a timer and then stop that timer if I really needed it to be a function. But since we're having to use the like start location anyway, due to the or the target location due to me using that like over here in tick, I would also. I guess I need to check if this is not nearly 0. Because if this is nearly 0, I don't want to do any of this other stuff. At which point I might as well like put this on a timer now. But doing this on delay until next tick is probably fine. And otherwise we will go in and use a timer instead. The great thing about not doing this on... I don't know that that's true. Yeah, so we actually need to set this up slightly differently, I think. Because this is going to move on, because this is a latent node. So when this event gets called, it's going to like wait on this, but this will still keep moving on. So we need to set the movement vector and the target location like explicitly through here as well, which we can just do in the here. Probably be good to just make that into its own function, but we're not going to scale this up too much, so just copying some code is not that bad of an idea. Let's test again. Okay, it doesn't immediately crash this time. That's something. Well, because because it didn't immediately run into a wall this time. So we have fuck me. Are you serious? Come on. You're surrounded by walls. Run into a wall. Oh, it didn't actually do what I thought it was going to do there. Why didn't it... Did I mess up? Did I mess up? I mean, I did. Multiplying that normal by -1 should do it, right? Well, normal delay, Q unused ticks or... I don't know. I'm pretty sure will normal delay Q unused ticks or just block every tick until delay is open, like do once. So normal delay kind of works like a gate as well, or a do once. So if you have like a delay in your tick event, or something that gets run more than once, if I set this to like 2, it's going to do this after 2 seconds after the first tick, but then it will also block any more ticks coming through until this delay is done. So it's also like a time gate in that sense. That's not the way that you make a timer though, to be like 1000% clear. But you could. And it technically would work. It would also be a pretty bad idea to do that, but here I am, doing other bad ideas, so fuck me. So I was sure that this was going to work, right? Like, am I missing something? What's the difference between normal and impact normal? Fuck, maybe that's it. Normal of the hit in world space, impact normal, normal of the hit in world space for the object that was hit. Okay, so it is normal. Oh, no, is that the normal? That's the normal of the surface, is it? No, it's normal of... For the object swap, e.g. for a sphere trace, this is the point towards the center sphere. Gotta check something real quick. What does ChatGPT say? Because I'm fairly certain that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Get the incoming direction, so that is end location, start location. I already have that normal. Get the surface normal, nope. Calculate the reflected direction. So reflected direction is the incoming direction minus 2 the multiplied by the dot product of the incoming plus surface normal. I don't need the surface normal, I think, right? No, this normal is, I believe, I believe this normal is the normal of the surface that you hit, not the normal, not the direction of which you. Okay, yes. Um, so then, let me think real quick. I guess we will just do the ChatGPT thing. Impact normal is what I used. I think this is specifically talking about. We'll just try that. Maybe that'll fix it for me. We'll see. It would make sense that impact normal would be like that, right? God, you're surrounded by walls, my dude. Come the fuck on. Walk into a wall. That's the right direction, man. Keep it up. Keep it up. You've got about a 50% chance at this point to walk into that wall and prove me wrong. And you've got about a 50% chance to make me look like an idiot. Eventually, it'll walk into a wall. So almost there. So as you can see, even when he's in a situation where he's never... Okay, that was a thing. So the issue is that it does the line trace starting inside of the wall now. So this does work. It is actually like spraying out these in a... It's kind of weird in the way that it's doing it, to be honest with you. Because it's also angling them down. But that's something that I can fix. I also need them to start a little bit offset. Unless I can... No, I can just make it ignore that actor. Hold the fuck on. I've got an ID. It'll be a lot easier to set up. Okay, so first and foremost, what we want to do is we want to make normal, please. Nope, I just want to make... Oh, make vector. It will be the normal, but it's just going to be normal make vector. Break vector is just going to be the x and the y that we pull through. The z is just going to be 0, which should make it flat. And we'll do the same thing here. Make vector, break vector, and then we just needed to also take in the last hit wall as an actor. So last hit wall, and we'll just ignore that wall. So we make an array. Hello, why don't you... Oh, this doesn't even... Oh, that just forwards that, sure. Hit actor. That should fix it. So yeah, the impact normal is the one that I wanted. I always hate doing this stuff. Okay, aside from the fact that this is now angled down, like if we look at this from top view, it's still that's still not. And this is probably like, yeah, going there and then there, yeah. Why is it angled down? Why would that angle down? Isn't that what I just fixed? Isn't that what this... I guess I multiplied by 0 anyway, so that actually like doesn't... Oh, yeah, no, that does make sense why it angles down, because I multiply this by 0, so the end position's always gonna be fucking 0, isn't it? Yeah, no, that fully makes sense. So we actually make vector, take the z from this one, make it a huge fucking mass of nodes, and take the x and the y from this one. Okay, now it shouldn't try to go towards z0. One step at a time, we're getting there. And I think that works. So now the only thing that could potentially still go wrong is what? Is that apparently. Yeah, no, that doesn't actually make a lot of sense, does it? Well, so we're checking if this target location is nearly 0. If it is, do nothing. If it's not, that means that we have a target location, which means that we have a movement vector to work toward. Then we check if our target location to our actor location, acceptance radius, is less than a certain amount. If it is, we set our movement vector to 0 and we finish this task. That should. Why didn't it? So why did it do this? I guess, yeah, so the reflection didn't properly work there. Because it went in at this angle, and then it's going out at this angle, while it should be going out at that angle. How can I ensure that it does that? Because that seems kind of weird. I might still need to do like all this math that ChatGPT has given me. Because I kind of feel like it's just always going to go to like the right side here now. Because it worked well when it bounced off this wall. It didn't work well when it bounced off of that wall. See, that works perfectly fine. Except that when he actually like reaches the location, for some reason it doesn't properly reach the location. That's this one. So what is this distance? It's 218. Target location is 0. Am I setting this weirdly? Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so that's fixed now. It was using this zeroed out version of the target location. We should be using this combined version. Rotate that wall and check if that's conflicting. I mean, I doubt it, because it's just a cube. And even if so, that's if that can like mess everything up, that is a huge problem, because there's every chance that it's going to run into that with like an actual static mesh as well then, instead of just an elongated cube. Yeah, so this one actually just like straight up did the same angle. Yeah, this impact location, this impact normal thing is not like consistent in how it works like at all. This doesn't do what it needs to do. Well, it is consistent in the way that it fucks up. Yeah, so it is for the object that was hit, so maybe it's like local, like its own rotation does impact it. I'm gonna try this, but again, if that is the issue, that is good to know, but that still needs to be fixed, because that is still not like an acceptable way of handling this. Yeah, no, it just for some reason wants to go to the right, man. Fucking my tank is Elon Musk. I don't know. Yeah, it's good to at least like isolate the problem. Again, my tank is Elon Musk. Okay. But yeah, that doesn't seem to be the big problem. So I'm gonna try this real quick. Get reflected vector, which takes in a surface vector. Look, I don't know why at this point this is not being done in C++. Incoming vector, because I could just copy everything the fuck over. I guess we might as well just like do. Well, we can just get a unit vector there. That's not a big problem. Then we do incoming direction, which is this. Just copying ChatGPT. A -2. Okay. If you say so. I don't understand this math at all. So if this works, I'm going to be upset because I won't be able to explain why. It mirrors wrong on the right side only. Is it the same for the top and bottom also? I mean, that would be interesting to explore, but like super not relevant to the actual like issue because it's never gonna go up and down with the way we have it set up now. So not something that I'm like super eager to look into at the moment, but still interesting. So incoming vector dot products, and we then like, hold on. -2, hold on, that's wrong. Hold on, this doesn't make any sense. But we're going to do it anyway. So dot product of the incoming vector and this, and then it says to multiply this again. But this is not going to work the same way because of order of operations in math. Because it's going to subtract 2 first and then multiply, while subtraction should always be done after multiplication, right? Go check that super quick. Parentheses, exponents, multiplications, division, addition, subtraction. Yes. Just needed to make sure of that. So this doesn't quite work out the same way that I would like it to. Or does Blueprint resolve this, or does it do it like linearly? Does anybody know? Google will know. Unreal does Blueprint resolve math order of operations? Something that I've never wondered, you know that? I'm going to assume that it does it in the way that they are connected, because that would make the most sense. Which means that we need to make a couple of local variables. Or I just need to make this into a fucking C++ function so that I can use like normal code like normal people. Can you make this into a blueprint step-by-step breakdown starting at step 3? Drag out the incoming direction from the first trace, drag out the surface normal, use a dot product to get the vector between those. Can you vector math expressions, or is that That's a good question. How do you add math expression? Fuck, I clicked over it. How do I edit this now? I'm not used to using these. Oh, expression, unexpected token type. Yes, I am aware. We're going to figure out whether or not you can do that. That is a fantastic question. Can we like add bins or something? It compounds a lot of stuff anyway into this line, so let's just blueprintify it. But that's a good idea. I always forget that that's a thing that you can do, to be honest. Okay, so we dot product these two. We multiply that surface normal by 2 times the dot product. So 2 times dot product multiply the surface normal by 2 times dot product. So surface normal multiplied by 2 times dot product. I don't think that's what that does, man. Subtract this result from the incoming direction. Oh, that actually might add up. Hold on. I have some doubts. I will very much be honest about that. But we're going to figure this out. So get reflected vector. That'll be the normal. The surface vector will be this, and then the incoming vector in this case will be unit direction between these two. Yeah, I figured that math expressions would use the operation order for math. It's kind of annoying in all the ways. A blueprint, I assume, doesn't. But it's also, it probably makes it more intuitive for a lot of people that it doesn't. So it's a bit of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, I am guessing. I'm also 1000% guessing that this is not going to work, by the way. Just to be 100% clear. Because I feel like we majorly fucked up a lot of stuff here, but hell, maybe it'll work. We'll see. It's going to take 6 to 8 business days for this thing to actually run into a wall so that we can test it, but eventually we'll see. Are you actually going to go into a wall and on the right side as well, like immediately? That would be fantastic. You are, and it doesn't work. Fuck. Just to be sure, we did turn it around. It shouldn't make any difference, but we did turn it around. We've been spending the hour and a half trying to fix an issue that's not gonna actually happen, 99% of the time. Yeah, so it... I don't know why it does that. Oh, in this case it might be because I'm Hold on. Might actually be because I'm inverting it again, which I don't need to do anymore. Because we have an entire like fucking function to calculate that reflection now, right? That seems like it might have done something. Well, the first bounce is straight, but from there it does angle perfectly fine now. The funny thing is, due to the first bounce being straight on, it's never going to like actually be bouncing around that much. But it seems like this actually like straight up does work now. You see, it bounces around properly, and we just need to fix up something that I messed up in the first connecting, I guess. Oh, that's kind of weird. How is that different? We go normal into surface normal, and then unit direction from starting location to ending location. So that should be the same. Why does it behave differently? Goes into normal, so that should be... I don't know why that behaves differently. It's not that big of a deal, necessarily. Just kind of weird. I'm guessing something about this must be acting weirdly. I'm thinking whether or not I care. Because I might not, to be very honest with you. I was just thinking that I might just spam line traces anyway on every frame by like doing a recursive like function call with a tick delay in it. That would effectively also work. It would be brute forcing, but if we just do it once per tick, like even if it takes like 100 ticks, for most intents and purposes, that's going to be like 2 or 3 seconds. This is better. Over-engineered as hell, but it's better. To the point where like this flying navigation might actually be better off using a system similar to this as well. But I'm thinking that it just works. I don't know why the first one is just like straight on. Yeah, people are setting off fireworks for some reason on April 1st, which is, I guess, a really fucking good joke. So why does this still... The only thing that I can think of is that this desired location that this unit vector is somehow like kind of messing up. I guess we can put a breakpoint here. I just, out of curiosity at this point, and also because we're not going to be doing anything else productive today, I just want to figure this out real quick, if I can. Hit the wall, hit the wall, hit the wall, hit the... You didn't hit the wall! Oh, this time it actually did come out in an angle. Not a proper angle, mind you, because it should be same angle in as out. So something is still definitely messed up. Also, that should have triggered the... What the... That should have triggered the breakpoint. Why didn't it trigger a breakpoint? What the... What? I am so confused right now. How did it just bypass the breakpoint? How did it not trigger a breakpoint? You know what? I have decided that I in fact do not care. And that it just works. So we're gonna set this for like super uber testing purposes. I'm gonna set this thing to like walk 10 times its normal speed. And it's just gonna be walking all over the place, and we're just gonna sit here and enjoy it not getting stuck on walls for a moment. Isn't that just fantastic? I am actually really quite happy with that. You know what? The fact that it moves so erratically now actually makes... I might keep it at this speed, to be honest with you, because it actually makes the snapping of the feet into place a lot less annoying. And I actually kind of like don't hate the way that it looks so erratic. Like it's really... I looked at initially when looking at references for animations for this guy, I looked at elephants because I was like, oh, slow lumbering movement like that, right? While I was animating, I was like, I should have looked at spiders. But now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, no, I should have looked at crabs. I really feel like he kind of moves around like a crab. And having that like faster up-down movement, like very quickly on his little feet, I actually think that's quite neat. So maybe 10 times is a little too much, admittedly. Yeah, see, it does this one straight on, but even then, like it figures itself out on subsequent bounces if it needs to. So, like, I'm actually just kind of okay with the way that this works now. I'm just annoyed by the fact that that means that I'm going to need to use this same system to figure out flying navigation going forward, I think. Because this is just straight up better than what I had. The only thing being is we need to build in one final little test. And that is at the very end here. We need to do a line trace. One last one. from the actor's current location to its target location and see if it doesn't hit anything. Because if it does hit something, it's going to need to wait 1 tick and then start the whole thing over with just a newly chosen location. So if that doesn't hit anything, we have our place to move to. I guess we... Does this count as being done by this actor? I guess it does, because the first one, yeah. But if it does, we just do a restart find location, and that's just effectively this from the start over again. Which I guess also should set secondary bounces back to 1, just in case that becomes relevant again. Let's just make sure that this doesn't crash anything. And that should now allow me to also make something like verifiably insane. Like this, where he will eventually find his way out. This is a worst case scenario. This is never actually going to happen, I should point out. But let's see how it deals with it. He almost made his way out immediately. That is so fucking funny. So yeah, he's going to like walk around in much more open spaces than this, obviously. So if he can deal with like navigating this hellhole, he will be fine in the actual game. He found his way out. So yeah, what I want to prevent is him like bouncing in some way to the other side of this wall anyway. So let's make this hellhole even worse for him. Because he was able to find his way out like surprisingly like a lot too easily for my liking. I want him to suffer. So let's make a little bit of a maze for him. Okay, this is the absolute final boss for, hey, you're gonna get so super screwed trying to navigate this. And obviously he doesn't properly navigate anything, right? What he does is he walks into a random direction with checks on whether or not he can walk into that random direction. That's not navigation in the slightest. Maybe I should increase his range. How are you avoiding all of these walls, my dude? Okay, see, he actually checked, hey, can I, like, do I have line of sight? And he might need to, like, skirt around a wall a little bit in order to get there, but that should be fine. But he has, like, direct line of sight to the place that he's going to, like, be. So he moved there. But if he ends up finding something that he doesn't have direct line of sight to, he should like figure out a different point to walk to. So yeah, this setup is effectively like Blueprint's approximation of asynchronous computing, right? So there it took a little while for him to find something, because apparently he didn't think that he found a place to walk to. Now, he is actually... There we go. He is actually at a wall now, I was going to say. Is he going to get stuck on this wall? Answer is apparently not really. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Let's do one more like test for him with a range of like 1200. I think the acceptance radius of 100 is actually a pretty good like guess on my part for what feels decent enough. This is going to probably end up with a lot more bounces. It's still not perfect, it's still bouncing like through some walls and that kind of shit. But again, yeah, it's handling it pretty good. And this is a nightmare scenario that he's never actually going to find himself in the actual game. Yeah, so that one he kind of was like, I don't know what's going on, I think. So let's see if he presumably... I don't know what he's going to be trying to do, to be honest with you. I feel like he's stuck. No, not this one. Yeah, so right now his target location is still 0, 0, 0. He's still trying to find new ones. I think. But at this point, so what probably happened is at this point, the range has become too small. Maybe. So the initial one would be... Okay. The issue is that the in to out angle still doesn't quite work perfectly. So what ends up happening here is that this line is entirely internal. So it ignores this wall initially, but then it starts ignoring this wall, but it's already inside of this wall, so it immediately sees a hit. Which is an issue, only because this doesn't have the proper angle out. If this had the proper angle out from how it came in, that wouldn't be happening. But we can also just kind of like put a timer on that, right? Because I'm brute forcing this at this point, I know. But like if we... if we do this and we set timer like by event, we can just restart after like 2 seconds if it hasn't found anything yet. Even after like 1 second, we can just restart. And then if we have found something, we can like remove or reset end. How does this work again? Clear and invalidate timer. So we can do that if we have found something, so that it doesn't like actually mess with us too much. Let's do that with a variable, because it's going to annoy me otherwise. Making failsafes is allowed. Yeah, exactly. Making failsafes is like a good thing. Just as long as you don't like make a janky failsafe on a janky failsafe on a janky failsafe. But this is just like a forceful, hey, if you get stuck, just move in like a different direction. Just like try to find something new. I was going to do that every like second. Which again is brute forcey, but if you brute force something once a second, is it really that brute forcing? Just to check, like, hey, if you haven't found anything yet after a second, clearly you're not going to find anything, so we need to start over. That said, it did start over there while it was already moving. So something's not going well. You know what? We'll do it here. At the moment you start moving. Do we need to be doing this every frame? No. No, we do not. Oh, hold on, this is clear and valid. That might just be the wrong function. Hold on. Clears a set timer. No. That's what we assume it would do. So yeah, this is just gonna clear it every frame. Can we check if this is valid? I guess that's slightly better. We only clear it if it is a valid timer handle already. So we're not unnecessarily clearing it if it's already cleared. That seems to have fixed it. So yeah, now the moment he starts moving, he just clears the timer handle. And he's actually like actively moving away from walls due to the code that we made for him. That means sometimes he is walking like a very small amount, but that's also like kind of just, yeah, that's gonna happen. Okay, he's in a corner now. Let's see what happens. He made it out of the corner. To another wall, but he made it out of the corner alright, so he very much is just going back and forth between the corner and the wall now. To another corner. But to be fair, wherever he stands in this area, it's very likely to be a corner or a wall. So yeah, I think we figured him out. I think he's fixed. yeah. So yeah, thanks everybody for your input, because the idea of like doing this on a timer, I made it into a delay. Um, was actually like a fantastic idea. Well, I don't know if I would call it perfect. um, the behavior is perfect. The methodology is, it works. And I think at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's like actually super important. And I think this will pretty much prevent him from like actually getting like big time stuck. So here you can see actually he did a line trace because he was supposed to go to a location that he didn't have line of sight to. So he started a new line trace. Like he restarted from the start. So that also works. That's the thing that I wanted to like have happen. That's exactly what happened here. So somehow, yeah, he like bounced from there to like somewhere over here, like in this fucking web of stuff. Tried to trace to that, so nope, that's not gonna work, and did something else instead. So yeah, debugging, it's fun. But we got him working now, so that's the most difficult part probably of this dude. Which means that on Thursday when we stream again, we're gonna have the fun part, which is making the cannon always interpolate toward the player, as long as the player is within a certain radius. I would say that can just be a like general check of, hey, is distance less than? If so, our interp. And then we can start making some like basic abilities for him, I suppose. I don't really have a lot of plans for it other than shooting the player with like a bomb. Which I guess is fine. And then we maybe also need to give him some movement for like when he's in active combat, because he would probably want to be away from the player. But I don't know if I want to make him that intelligent, because this was a pain in the ass enough to do. Right? So maybe we'll just keep him moving erratically and randomly, and just when the player is in his range, he shoots at the player. And he doesn't have like any either running or chasing behavior at all. But I do think that maybe, yeah, it probably like works out fairly well with the state tree, right? Because we will have essentially on the passive state just a constant like check if there is a player within like a certain radius. If there is a player within that radius on the aggressive state, we'll have the interp, and then we'll have aggressive like locking on, and then if the player is probably within like a certain like angle difference, we'll probably do like a random ability out of like a couple of different shots that he can do. Um, at which point we can just set his movement. Like when we enter this, we can just set his movement direction to 0. So he will stop walking, because his entire like movement is based on that one variable, because it's all driven by this. And then when he re-enters this, it all gets picked up just like from the start. So that actually like takes care of itself fully. That means that he won't be moving during the aggressive state, which I don't know if that's good. But in a worst case scenario, we can just move this to here. and then make the waiting a part of the task itself. Right, we could, in theory, here we could just put in a delay. Because after we set this movement vector to 0, it's going to... Ooh. We could just do a check for movement vector as well. After we set this to 0, it's going to stop doing all this tick stuff anyway. And then we could just do a delay and put that in here so that we can move this task up to whenever it's active. It's just always in movement. I actually think that's pretty good. So this is one of the reasons that I like the state tree, because you can have multiple tasks very easily like layer on top of each other. We can have this active state doing like the patrol movement, and then the aggressive state can be doing all of the rotational thing for the cannon. And then we can have an actual like attacking state, which does an attack ability, which does its entire like own thing. And they can all be happening like on top of each other, which is not something that behavior trees are like particularly good at. A behavior tree is like you do one thing, and if you do multiple things, it's at most in like a sequence. It's not really like designed to have like this layered approach to it, which is why I like state trees. Anyway, it's been a pretty good one. I have dropped about 0 frames in almost 3 hours streaming to both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. So that is straight up fantastic. So yeah, we'll be back doing, like, I guess, more of his behavior on the next stream. And it's been good being back streaming again. It's been a while, so it's been a month. But hopefully, now that everything is settled down a little bit, we'll